Okay, next video is called Markov Chains. Okay, so here's an example. Suppose X is the proportion of people who like Trump and Y is the proportion of people who like Clinton. So proportion meaning like a percentage, or like could be like 0.2 and 0.8, for example, X and Y. Okay, now each week, let's say in this example, 20% of Trump supporters are going to change and they're going to start supporting Clinton instead. And 30% of Clinton supporters are going to switch to supporting Trump. Okay, first off, we're going to say here that there's only two people you can support. You can only support Trump or Clinton. Okay, so it's a simplified version of reality. So we're going to look at what's going to happen if this same thing happens every week. And if you think about it, more people are defecting from Clinton. Okay, Trump doesn't have as many people defecting each week. So obviously each week Trump is going to have a little bit higher percent. That seems like what's going to happen. But what we've got to find out is what's going to happen at the end of all this. Is Trump going to have all the supporters, or is it going to level off? So that's what we're going to look at, and going to figure out also how we can use matrices with this problem. So let's start scrolling down a little bit here, and here's what we start with. Trump has X, Clinton has Y, and we can put that in a little matrix like this, X and Y. Okay, that's what we start with. After a week now, okay, we're going to figure out, alright, Trump, how many, what proportion of supporters is he going to have after 1 week? Okay, so let's see. 20% of his supporters up here, 20% are going to switch to Clinton. Okay, so he doesn't have those 20%. But he does have, he still keeps 80%. Okay, 80% stay. So he's got 80% of his original supporters. So he's got 0.8 of his original X. Okay, and now for Clinton, 70% are going to stay with Clinton, and but those 30%, this 30% are switching to Trump. So this is what he has. The next week he has 30% of Clinton's proportion. Okay, so he's got 80% of his original, and he's got 30% of Clinton's. Okay, so Clinton, now Clinton, what does she have? Well, how many of Trump supporters are now supporting Clinton? 20%. 0.2. 0.2 of X. And, of course, 0.7. She's got 70% of her supporters are staying with her. So 0.7Y. Okay, so what she has at the end of this week, if we put it into a little matrix, she's got 0.8X plus 0.3Y and 0.2X plus 0.7Y, which hopefully you see we can actually write as a multiplication of matrices times by X, Y. Okay, so now in week 2, hopefully it's obvious that all that's going to happen is that we're going to times again by this 0.8, 0.3, or whatever matrix. So we're going to have, basically we're going to have 0.8, 0.3, 0.2, 0.7 times squared, okay, because we're just going to times each week. We're timesing the previous week by this matrix. Okay, so this matrix, if we look at this matrix, it is the numbers in it: 0.8, 0.2, 0.3, 0.7. Okay, so this is Trump, Clinton, Trump, Clinton. These ones, okay, if we look at what these meant, these were the 80% of Trump supporters staying with Trump, and the remaining 20% that switched to Clinton. Okay, so these have to add up to 1. These add up to 1. And same here. These have to add up to 1. The columns. Okay, the rows, if you look across the rows, that doesn't matter with the rows. Alright? And this is from and to, or you could call those before and after. Okay, so for example, this one means from Clinton to Trump. Okay, 30%, going back up here, 30% switched from Clinton to Trump. Okay, or you could think they were before they were Clinton and after they were Trump. So this is what the things in this matrix mean. So we want to look at what happens in the long run, and I am going to do this in Excel. I find Excel pretty good for this stuff. So let me open up Excel. Okay, so I'm going to put this matrix in. 0.8, 0.3, and a little bit of practice is using Excel to multiply matrices. And let's say we start with 0.9 and 0.1 and 0.9. So remember, this is Trump and this is Clinton. Okay, so we just a little example. We'll test it out where Trump has a low percent to start with. So we've got to look at what happens over the weeks. Alright, so let's find out. So this is some practice, multiply matrices in Excel, and we can do this very quickly in Excel. That's why I'm using this. Okay, highlight 2 cells, okay, because we need to put our answer needs to be a 2x1 matrix. So you highlight 2 cells, we type equals, M mult is matrix multiplication, open bracket, highlight everything in the first matrix. Now the trick is we want to hit F4 here to put dollar signs in. Hopefully you know dollar signs. Dollar signs are very handy in Excel. And a comma, and then we'll highlight the other one. And now the most important thing, well, after we put our closing bracket, is how you enter this. Don't just hit enter. It won't work. Okay, and if you do that by mistake, Control Z to undo, otherwise you'll have all sorts of problems. You have to hold Control Shift down and push enter at the same time. Alright. So this is what happens after 1 week. Now we've got 35% Trump, 65% Clinton. Okay, now the handy thing is I can copy this down here, etc., etc. week. So week 2, week 3. Okay, week 3, Trump's now ahead. Week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8 seems to be leveling out a bit. You have to have the same gap between them each time. Okay. Now what are we up to? Week 9 or something? Week 10. Anyway, it looks like it's getting pretty close to 0.6. Okay. So let's go back and see what this means. Okay, so if we look at this, it seems what seems to be happening is that 0.8, 0.2, so that was 0.3, 0.2, 0.7. If we raise that to a pretty high power, times by 0.1, it seems to be going to about 0.6 and 0.4. But let's prove that. Let's see if it actually does prove this way. So what's going to happen if this does level out is we're going to get an equation like this: xy equals 0.8. So let's say xy is the proportion that it's leveled out to. Okay, this is the leveling out proportion, and that means that each week it's not going to change. Okay, xy is the, what do we say, leveled out proportion. Maybe there's a more elegant way to express that, but that'll do. So actually, if we can just solve this equation, we might be able to figure out what that is. So let's just multiply this out. Okay, the top row, x equals 0.8x plus 0.3y. Next row is y equals 0.2x plus 0.7y. Let's rearrange a little bit. Rearrange equation 1. I'm going to get 0.2x equals 0.3y, or x equals 1.5y. Okay. And do I get the same thing with the other equation? Let's just check. 0.3y equals 0.2x. Okay, look, that's exactly the same. Anyway, important thing, what do x plus y have to equal? If you go back up here, what did we say? Well, we said the columns have to add up to 1, but of course x and y, if they're proportions, and Clinton and Trump are only choices, it has to add up to 100%. It has to add up to 1. So that means that we substitute 1.5y plus y equals 1, 2.5y equals 1, y equals 0.4, x equals 0.6. Okay, so that is what it looked like it leveled out to. So that's showing that is exact. Okay, let's cut this video off for now, and I'll do the next example in a new video. Good night, everyone.